Welcome in, belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 112, a Week 8 two-point conversation. And it is my great pleasure to welcome by my side at the bar, Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
How are you doing this evening, Bernie?
I am avoiding any time travel incidences so far, so I'm doing pretty good today.
Nice. You got to stay away from that time travel. You don't want to meet yourself in another dimension. Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly.
All right, guys. Like I said, this is a Week 8 two-point conversation. I want to thank you all so very much for understanding, as our weekend schedule has been a little off lately, but we are back to it, and we are going to have another jam-packed episode for you guys. As in this show, we will go over with some player news. We'll get check in on the studs and duds for Week 8, and we'll also settle into a nice Week 8 two-point conversation with a special guest that'll join us a little later. But before we do any of that, let's make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingmen assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, let's get into the player news for the day. All right, let's start off with some good news, as Cooper Kupp was active for the first time this season since Week 2 for the Rams, and his teammate Puka Nacua was also active for the first time since Week 1, as he was activated from the IR on Thursday.
Activated.
Oh, famous Jameis Winston, one of Mr. Team B's favorite players, got his first start for the Browns in an epic NFC North battle. We'll go over that game a little bit later. And Jordan Love did not finish the game, as he left early, right around halftime, with what appears to be a moderate, if not a significant, groin injury. And Reek O'Dowdle was a surprise inactive for the Sunday night's matchup against the 49ers, as he seemed to come down with an illness as he got to the stadium, making way for Ezekiel Elliott to get the start and Dalvin Cook to get his first action of the year, as he was activated from the practice squad for his first playing time of the season.
Activated.
And Jaden Daniels mispracticed all week, but he was active in the matchup of the top two picks of the 2024 NFL Draft, as the Washington Commanders took on those Chicago Bears. Juwan Jennings, our highest priced waiver wire acquisition going into Week 8, was ruled out on Friday, and he's not going to play in Sunday's night game, and they're on a bye next week. So, good spending there, Crazy Fish. And Tyreek Hill, who was questionable with a late week foot injury, did make it on the field, as he was able to join his teammate Tua, who returned to action. Stephon Diggs did not finish the game today on Sunday, as he appeared to have sustained a non-contact injury to his knee, and I haven't seen any updates on that since the close of the game. And Cordell Patterson, another favorite of Mr. Team B's, was ruled out for the Monday night matchup against the Giants. And Draco Mofo left the game early with a head injury, although his team did make a rousing comeback to beat those New York Jets. And I forgot to mention, and I did not set my lineup accordingly, today was tight ends, our National Tight Ends Day, where we had Kyle Pitts. This is a long list. Get ready for this, all right? Kyle Pitts, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Cade Otton, Dalton Kincaid, is it Jeff Conklin, Adam Troutman, Brock Wright, Tucker Kraft, Nate Adkins, David Njoku, Evan Ingram all scored at least one touchdown today. I don't know why I didn't think to put Kelce in on National Tight Ends Day. What a mistake. All right. As for the Sunday night game, both George Kittle and Deebo Samuel were listed as questionable all week, but they were active, and they are active for the Sunday night game. And Spencer Rattler got benched for the New Orleans Saints against the Chargers in favor of Jake Haener. And the theme for this week was buzzer plays, and we had kicks and Hail Marys to win multiple games this week at the buzzer. Usually I stop to let you chime in there. Sorry about that, Bernie. Anything catch your attention? You need any reminders here?
Oh no, I just the National Tight Ends Day. The script is real, and I better start following that NFL script when I set my lineups, because I got beat by the player that played two tight ends. I played Kincaid, and Pitts was on the opposing team, and they both whooped my butt.
Let's see. Any other things here? What do you have anything to say about Jameis Winston?
Oh yeah, that was great. I saw a Winston to Tillman touchdown pass that was more than 30 yards, and I was like, okay, why am I not on top of this? Why are they not on my team? I was excited to see that.
We'll mention a little bit later, but you did mention Cedric Tillman might be a guy to keep an eye on, and he showed out today.
Yeah, so happy to see that. And then as far as Jordan Love, it was tough to see him go down. And as far as Hill, good to see Hill in. I would love to see a nice streak bomb, but I didn't get one today. But so maybe next week.
Did you? Well, I guess we'll get to it later. But did you happen to watch any of that Saints game when you had Kamara in? Did they change the way they were playing once they got rid of Rattler? Or did it look the same?
I watched a little bit. I was so happy when they got rid of him. They didn't change too much. We're talking third string now at this point. So
yeah,
I was waiting for them to just scrap the game plan and put Taysom Hill in as quarterback and then just run this thing like a backyard game, because they got nothing to lose at that point. But the coach, like you said, you got people talking on other fantasy shows that just hate this coach. I can see why.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, we had a lot of players who did quite well and a lot of players who did quite poorly. So let's check in on our studs and duds for week number 8. Wrong button. There we go.
Wingman Fantasy Football, studs and duds.
All right, why don't you start us off with our stud list today?
Oh, man, I should let you start this off, because here's the start of the week. Mr. Bo Nix with a 29.76. Man, he doesn't look anything like he did in college. He looks like a man out there. Then Kirk Cousins coming in next, ATL in the house, 28.64. We were expecting that because the last game he had was a 30 burger when they played Tampa Bay.
How many touchdowns did Kirk Cousins have today?
2 to Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts was playing against me. I know that for sure. He had 4 passing touchdowns. I got it here. I'm sorry. Let's go back. Let's go back to Mr. Bo Nix real fast here.
I was guiding you back to that.
284 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown for Bo Nix. Kirk Cousins came in at 276 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and 16 rushing yards for a modest run there. Next up, Mr. Trevor Lawrence. This is a stat line for a winning quarterback, but he lost today. 308 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. And then Mr. Matt Stafford, 279 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Did anybody ever pick him up off of our waiver wire? He's been on there for
we had
Mr.
Nick Waddle picked him up and played him on Thursday.
Yeah, great job. Oh, yeah, against me.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the match. I mean, I should have realized, but I didn't.
Yeah. All right. Who else we got going here?
All right. Before we move along real quick. So I know Kirk Cousins' monster game was also against, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, against Tampa Bay like 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Did he have 5 touchdown passes in that one, or was it just 500 yards? I remember there's a 5 in that.
It was 500 yards. It was like 499, I think. I don't think he quite got to 500. It might have been 5 touchdown passes, though.
Either way, he's had between 7 and 9 touchdown passes against Tampa Bay in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah. That's a must start right there.
Yeah. And on the other end of that shootout, we had Laser Mayfield had 26.3 points as he had 330 passing yards, three passing touchdowns, and he had 11 rushing yards. He did miss his big-time receivers, but he still got the job done fantasy-wise, and they almost came back in this game. Our next one, Jameis Winston made the stud list. I need to get a sound effect for Jameis Winston. Maybe just like sucking on your fingers or whatever that thing you used to do. If I can find that sound, that's going to be gross. 25.56 points for Winston, who had 334 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, including a medium-sized bomb to Cedric Tillman with about a minute to go to take this one down as a comeback victory. We'll get more into the games a little later. Lamar Jackson on the other side of that same game. These things are shootouts, it seems like. Lamar Jackson had 24.16 points with 289 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a very solid 46 yards rushing. And Justin Herbert, I think this is the first time he's made this list, as he had 24.06 points. He had a very similar stat line to Lamar Jackson, 279 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 49 rushing yards. Who else we have?
Oh, we have another possible start of the week that we had mentioned, Mr. Devon Achane. Go Dolphins, 23.7 points, 147 total yards, 6 receptions, and 1 receiving touchdown. And then we've got Kyle. I've freshened up, not Stinky Pitts anymore, 23.1, 91 reception yards, 4 receptions with 2 touchdowns. And then Ramondre Stevenson, 22 fantasy points, 65 total yards, 3 receptions, and 2 rushing touchdowns. He really stuck it to the Jets today, and I love it. And Joe Mixon, who was also on the opposing team that I played today, 21.4 fantasy points, 134 total yards. Wow, that's a big number. 4 receptions and 1 rushing touchdown.
Mixon
yeah,
has... Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish that up. Sorry.
It was tough. It was tough for me to read a couple of these names since they were all on the opposing team for me.
Joe Mixon has scored over 21 points in every game that he's started and finished this year.
Yeah.
And Kyle Pitts, man, he's found the Axe body spray. He's got a lifetime supply as he's spraying up, smelling, I don't want to say good, but smelling okay. I think he started the game with only 2 catches, but they were both touchdowns. So he pretty much didn't do too much except get 38-yard touchdown passes.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, hey, there's a big body in the end zone. We should throw it to him.
All right, our next players here on this list. Someone's got to catch the one bomb from Anthony Richardson, and today it was Josh Downs, who had 20.2 points. He had only 4 receptions, but he had 122 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. And like I said, the one I believe was a 69-yard bomb he caught from Richardson, if I'm not mistaken. Marvin Harrison Jr. looked great in the second half in the comeback effort for the Cardinals, had 20.1 points, contested catches, big third downs, 111 receiving yards on 6 receptions, including a great diving touchdown on the side of the end zone. Let's see. Kyren Williams.
Release the Kraken.
We have to go all the way back to Thursday night. This guy, I don't know exactly his streak. It's got to be like 9 to 12 games of a touchdown in straight games he's played. He had 20.1 points with 116 total yards, 5 receptions, and his touchdown came via the air. And Travis Kelce. Everyone started this guy today, right? Everybody but me. Travis Kelce had 20 points, even with 90 receiving yards, 10 receptions, and a receiving touchdown.
Wow. And here we go. I wouldn't even call these guys dynamic duo because that implies that one might be better than the other, but these 2 backs are awesome. And one half of that is Jahmyr Gibbs, 19.8 points, 133 total yards, 1 reception, and 1 rushing touchdown. And somebody else that might be on somebody's bench, Calvin Ridley, 19.6 points, 146 total yards, and 10 receptions. Was he warming the bench, Mike?
He was in my starting lineup. Thank you, sir.
Whoa, congratulations. And Mr. Bijan Robinson, who was also in your starting lineup, 19
Correct.
Total points, 100 total yards, 6 receptions, and 1 receiving touchdown. And DeAndre Swift, look at you getting on the board, 18.9 points, 129 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. The next name that you say is going to hurt my heart.
Yeah, I was surprised you had him on the bench. Swift, ever since we kind of chastised him after not taking advantage of a strong matchup in the first third of the season, he's been as steady as they go. Oh, my thing just went off. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Our next player here. Oh, what else did I want to mention here? I forget. Oh, Bijan Robinson. We'll get into the game. I swear to God, if they give Tyler Algier any more carries, I'm going to freak the F out, man. They give him the same number of work. Algier gets stuffed every 2 yards. Bijan comes in, gets a 7-yard play, and they're like, back to Algier. I don't know what they're doing. It's Sunday night rant. I'm going to save it. All right. The next player you were cringing to hear about, Jonathan Taylor on the bench for Mr. Team B, had 18.2 points, 117 total yards, only had 1 reception, but he did get in the end zone on a rushing touchdown. Darnell Mooney, however, was in the lineup. Your pair of Falcons did quite well for you with 17.7 points with a total of 92 receiving yards, 5 catches for 1 receiving touchdown. And Devontae Smith had 17.5 points on 85 receiving yards, 6 catches, and most of that came on one long bomb to catch a long bomb receiving touchdown. And we only had one kicker make the list this week, as Jake Elliott for the Eagles had 15 points with 3 field goals and 4 extra points. All right, we have some good players, but now it's time to get into some of the duds for the week. Why don't you start us off with our duds there?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one quick note about the kickers. That's because Brandon Aubrey is playing right now. So that's why he's not on this list yet. So we've got starting the dud list at the top is Draco Mofo, 11.5 points. He did get hurt, so hope he is doing okay, but not too good because the Patriots suck. And then Mr. Caleb Williams, 11.3 points. That was a tough sledding against a stout Washington defense, though, and that was expected as far as I was concerned. And then Geno Smith, this one was rough to watch, 10 points. It's almost like Seattle gave up on this game. And then Jordan Love got a little dinged up as well, 7.84 points for the dud.
All right. Our next one on this list here is Alexander Madison, who's been very steady, but against the stout Kansas City defense, he could only get 6.9 points today. Christian Kirk, who's on the trade block, or rumored to be anyway, could only get 6.9 points. And Rome Odunze, once again, gets 6.9 points. I think you are right that defense for Washington is straightening up, getting better and better and better. They made Caleb Williams look awful, and except for DeAndre Swift, we're going to have a lot of Bears on this dud list. And Austin Eckler did his best, but in a weird game today, it could only get 6.8 points for the Commanders.
Yeah, and then next up, we've got a Dolphin, a sad Dolphin. Mr. Jalen Waddle should have caught more passes, though. You had the opportunity to not be on this dud list at 6.5 points. And then Ken Walker, 6.5 points for Ken Walker. He was just doing receiving today. Seattle could not rush against Buffalo. Jaden Reed up next, 6.5 points as well. And then Christian Watson, 5.9 points.
All right, finishing up, I was surprised with the good play of the Falcons in the passing game. Drake London was a dud at 5.4 points. And this guy should have been benched for Jonathan Taylor, maybe. Nick Chubb only got 5.2 points, as this was a passing affair for the Browns. And Keenan Allen, after the bye week, went back to his snacks and Twinkies. Back Keenan got 4.9 points. Another Bear on this list, DJ Moore, could only get 4.4 points. You know what? Looking at this now, I'll take the 6.9 from Rome Odunze after seeing all these receivers here for the Bears, even on this dud list.
Yeah, that was tough sledding for those Bears. All right, and Mr. New Team, New Attitude, let's get some touchdowns. Didn't do anything. DeAndre Hopkins, 3.9 points. Cole Kmet, 3.9 points. Wait, Cole Kmet's a tight end. Did he not get the memo today? And Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman started the game hot, but he only ended with 3.3 points. And Mike's arch nemesis, Mr. Tyler Algier, 3.3 points.
Algier and Gibbs and Robinson had the same amount of work today. Robinson has 19 points. Algier's got 3.3. Stop giving him the ball inside the 10. I'm swear to God, Robinson's all right. I can't help myself. Robinson scores like on 60% effective rate inside the 10, and Algier's like 10%. They keep going to him. It's pissing me off. All right. Oh. Sorry. Other guys here. Sterling Shepard didn't quite take advantage of the new role he might have with the Bucks, as he only got 3.3 points. On Thursday night, Jordan Addison only had 3.2 points. And Ray Davis, despite the Buffalo Bills destroying the Seattle Seahawks today, only had 2.9 points. Demario Douglas, we thought he was going to have a chance to be the number one receiver in this new passing game for the Patriots, got only 2.2. And Michael Pittman, anyone Anthony Richardson, if you don't catch the bomb, you get nothing, as Michael Pittman only got 2.1 points.
And this one's surprising because Anthony Richardson play. Alec Pierce, 1.6 points. Alec Pierce is one of his go-to targets, and they just couldn't get it going today. Put in Flacco. Tyler Lockett, 1.4 points. No surprise there. DK was out. Geno didn't do anything. And then, Mr. Amari Cooper. I didn't watch any of this, so I don't know why he's got virtual goose at 0.8 points.
All right, that was a long list of duds and studs, but there's even more, so much more, as we get to see our Mecca studs for Week 8.
Mega Studs.
All right, starting off with the highest scoring player of the week. This one hurt me to watch as he's just a thief. He steals from Saquon Barkley all day long. Jalen Hurts had 35.14 points. How'd he get there? 236 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 37 rushing yards, and 3 rushing TDs, even when they were up by 18 points with a minute and a half to go. What an ass. I hate that guy. All right, sorry. I don't know why I'm so worked up. I'm having a good week, actually. James Cook had 26.8 points in the rout for the Bills against the Seahawks. He had 133 total yards, 3 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. And Lad McConkey had 26.1 points with 111 receiving yards, 6 receptions, and 2 TDs, and he was on somebody's bench. We have our next player here on the Mecca Studs is Cedric Tillman at 25.4 points. He had 99 receiving yards, 7 catches, and 2 touchdowns, including the go-ahead touchdown in the last minute of the game. And he's out there as a free agent. Josh Jacobs got a little banged up on the last play of the game, but he had a great day going into that at 25.2 points, 125 total yards, 1 catch, and 2 rushing touchdowns. And Cade Otton, I think he's the one taking up the slack for the Bucs. Yes, he had 24.6 points with 81 receiving yards, 9 receptions, and 2 receiving touchdowns. And he, too, is a free agent. Are any of these Mecca Studs, you want to add anything to these guys?
No, just Cedric Tillman. Though it's good that I actually thought that might be a good connection, and it turns out to be a good connection. So hopefully I can get him at a lower cost on the waiver wire. And then Josh Jacobs, it's good to see him like scoring and moving and being Josh Jacobs because he's a beast.
Yep. So I want to talk about Tillman when we get into the 2-point conversation. I've got a little note here, not bad or good, just an observation. All right, guys, it is now time to get into our Week 8 2-point conversation.
Is Jack Del Rio going to go for 2 here,
He's
Rick?
going for 2.
The Raiders will go for 2 and the probable victory with 47 seconds left.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Wingman Fantasy Footballs. 2-point conversation.
And it's good! Oh, my goodness! Oh, my goodness!
All right, guys, we have a special guest joining us at the bar for the 2-point conversation. It is my great pleasure to welcome into the bar here, Mr. The Phintastics, Ken T. How are you doing tonight, Ken?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, as good as a Dolphin fan can be.
You didn't. All right, we'll get into it a little bit later. All right, so we're going to go through all the action of the games that we watched today, or at least go through some notes of things that we noticed throughout the games this weekend. Bernie, why don't you start us off with our first game we want to talk about?
All right. So for the weekend, we can start with a game that was the AFC East kind of back and forth for last place. The New York Jets at the New England Patriots.
So this one I didn't follow too much, except that I saw Stevenson got the late touchdown to come back at the end here. We were talking about as we had our wingman jam with a 7-point spread for the Jets, and the Jets missed an extra point, missed a 2-point conversion. I thought they were going to have this if they just would make their stupid extra points. They had it locked up, but the Patriots stuck with it with their backup quarterback or previously starting quarterback, and they were able to come back in this one. Ken, as a AFC East fan and a Dolphins fan, who were you more likely wanting to lose this game?
I wanted a tie.
It almost happened.
Yeah, I always root for ties when they play each other.
Okay. Yeah. Devontae Adams once again did not get going here. I told you before, this is either going to be a blow-up game for the Jets or the Jets might as well be blown up after this one. This is bad news for the Jets and their psyche going forward, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Garrett Wilson did have a game. Aaron Rodgers didn't look horrible, but that New England rushing attack and New England defense was on point today. For the Patriots to look this good, though, on the field, that means the Jets are really that bad.
So when you watch, you're saying that the defense was the best part of the New England game today?
No, I think that the defense and the complementary running game did well together. Like Aaron didn't have a bad game, but it didn't. there were the moments where they couldn't get over the hump. They couldn't make anything happen. They could just kind of move the ball a little bit, keep the game close, and they should have won by more than 7 against the Patriots. So Drake May did look good early in this game, though. Before he went out, he looked like he was commanding the offense and keeping the Jets defense on their heels.
Do you think Gerard Mayo calling them soft, they responded well to that criticism?
Yeah, for sure. To come out and have a good running game, I think so.
So you said you wanted a tie there. Are you on the? We're kind of half poking fun here. Are you on the bandwagon here of enjoying all of the misery that Aaron Rodgers might put upon his team this year, Ken?
I am, and the reason I always root for ties on whenever AFC East teams play each other is because it's winning percentage, not So if you have a tie, it doesn't hurt you like that bad, but it definitely doesn't help you, and they'd still have
All right. Well, we don't want to talk about these losers too much. We don't talk about these losers too much anymore. Let's get to another game here, Bernie. What you got?
I totally agree with you, Mike.
Too funny. All right. Next game we have up here is the Philadelphia at Cincinnati. Philadelphia wins this one in an easy fashion, 37-17.
All right. Did you were at the stadium at your game today, so you didn't see too many of the 1:00 games, did you today, Ken, or follow them at all?
I didn't watch any of them. I'm going to follow along as we go, and I'll comment as I can.
That's fine. So I was box score watching this one, and Hurts had a slow start. I was like, all right, if I can survive Jalen Hurts. Baker Mayfield got off to a better start. I'm like, he picked the wrong player. He went to obviously I would have put in Hurts instead of Mayfield with the injuries to the receiving core for the Bucs. But then Jalen Hurts just kept getting 1-yard touchdowns. They gave him carry after carry after carry inside the one. It took him 3 chances to get in, but he finished off. Saquon Barkley get tackled at the one, and they wouldn't. I think there was a play where Barkley had like an 18-yard run to the one, and they didn't let him finish it. What kind of jerk? What kind of Anthony Richardson bullcrap is that? To just take the touchdowns away from your running back. Jalen Hurts was pissing me off as he was scoring. They kept increasing the lead, and he kept doing it.
Well,
honestly, they don't care about his health.
Yeah.
No, so okay. Let's not just say they're doing anything dirty to Saquon here. Because last week when Saquon was like a couple of yards away from his rushing his season or his career high, he said no, let the other guys get the play time. They were benching their starters at that point. So I'm pretty sure the coach is like, you want this? And they're like, no, let run the play that you're going to run. Let Jalen get this. It's not a big deal. I'm not taking anything away. It sucks for fantasy if you're a Barkley owner. I don't feel for Day Tucker Jobs at all because he's got Derrick Henry, but Jalen Hurts getting those touch. I mean, they put a spanking on the Bengals, which it kind of makes you happy.
But all those, like I said, all those Jalen Hurts rushing touchdowns were after the spanking already happened. That's what was, like you said, Ken. Like they're asking to get their guy hurt if they're up by 18 points with 3 minutes to go and they're putting their guy in a pile.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it with the tush push last year, and then this year they're doing it with just regular rushes. It's crazy.
They didn't pass the ball too well here. The only person who caught how did AJ Brown do it? He didn't make our stud Douglas. I think he did okay.
Well, he was right behind Devontae Smith. He had 6 targets. Devontae had 7. He had 5 receptions. Devontae had 6. They both had 85 for Devontae, 84 for Brown receptions. And so the only advantage was the 1 touchdown for Devontae Smith, and he had 1 longer 45-yard pass, and A.J. Brown had 29. So they were even as far as stat line goes, advantage to the touchdown for Smith. And even, what is it? I can't even say this guy's name. Calcaterra. He had 58 yards on 3 receptions. So it wasn't a shootout game. It was those rushing touchdowns. So I
guess the good thing about this game, Ken, is that the Dolphins are, they're in a little bit of dire straits, obviously, but they're competing with teams like the Bengals at where they're at. They need to get over those guys, and the Bengals losing again today kept them in that same range where they're not behind another team. So that's kind of good that that the Bengals lost to an NFC team today.
I suppose so, but
I'm trying.
We're fighting for a wild card.
We're fighting for a wild card. We need minimum 11 wins.
I know, but the Bengals losing is a good thing if we're fighting for that wild card in the AFC.
Yeah, it's not the NFC. We're not making it in with 8 wins.
Yeah.
All right, what's our next game here, Bernie?
True. All right, the next one was a closer game than we all thought it would be. Green Bay at Jacksonville. Green Bay takes this one 30-27.
So we had Green Bay get up early, if I recall. At least they were up by 10 points at some point. But then Jacksonville scored 2 scores late as Malik Willis came in, where they were just trying to run the ball out, and they were getting a first down or 2, but they weren't really getting into scoring position. And then Jacksonville had a couple nice drives in that fourth quarter to keep it close and then tie it up. And then it came down to Malik Willis had Jaden Reed did nothing all day long, and Malik Willis had a sneaky play. They ran a great play call by Matt LaFleur. I forget about how much time was left, 2 minutes or so, where they were running the ball to just kind of run the clock out and maybe get in the field goal range. And they pulled the ball back in a play action, and they had a leak out from Jaden Reed, who's he only had 2 catches all day, give or take, but it was a 45-yard catch down the sideline to get him right in the field goal range. That was a very nice throw from Malik Willis, as he was just kind of control the game a little bit, but that was a big time throw he had to make. The guy was open, but the play call, and he executed the play quite well.
Yeah, Malik Willis looked good. Well, it didn't look bad for the little bit of time, so that's a good thing to see. And then Josh Jacobs was also a good thing to see with 127 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. So Green Bay really did play a good game, but the surprising Jags just they came on, man. They came on.
So we have Jordan Love. He throws a ton of touchdowns, but people kind of are forgetting because he's getting the big touchdown numbers. I keep seeing Garendo in the game. Is Jordan Mason hurt? This is upsetting me. But he throws a ton of interceptions. He had another interception into the end zone as they're getting ready to score earlier in the game that could have put this out of reach a little earlier.
Yeah, Jordan Love's interceptions, they're not – see, the thing is Green Bay's always – their defense has been stout enough to where those interceptions haven't really affected any game except for being a really close game in this game, I think. Green Bay's defense is much better than expected, I think, this year so far.
Yep, Jordan Mason's banged up. He's questionable to return. Oh, no. All right, what other game do we have? Oh, that was one of our things I said, buzzer wins. That was one of the kicks. A kicker that won the game at the buzzer, and that kicker's been on their team for 2 weeks, and he has 2 buzzer kicks. That's a huge thing for those young kickers or those new kickers to get those wins that's part in the season in the NFL. It was Brandon McManus. Don't look him up. All right, keep going.
All right, next game we have, this is a Super Bowl team here. Tennessee at Detroit. The Dominator puts up 52 points against Tennessee's 14 points.
So this was a defensive onslaught from the Lions here as they had a short field all day long. They scored 6 touchdowns. 6 different players scored the touchdowns. 2 different players threw touchdown passes. David Montgomery got in the action throwing a touchdown pass to a backup tight end. And Goff, he had 3 touchdown passes, but only had like 80 yards passing because they didn't have to do anything on offense today.
They started from inside the 50, inside the 40, inside the 30 multiple times in this game. So he didn't have a long field to have to put up the yards.
I think obviously the headline here is the blowout victory by the Lions. They're now, I think, tied for the top of the standings. But Calvin Ridley had a huge day in terms of catches and yards. He started off hot. He had like 6 catches for 100 yards in the first quarter and a half, and then he kind of does what he does. He has a big half and then kind of coasts the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that wide receiver room, but he had 15 targets. The next set of targets is going to be 6 targets. So from Tyler Boyd's 6 targets to Calvin Ridley's 15, I don't know. He wasn't open that much. Were people just not covering him?
I don't know. Ken, so are you going to give up? Are you going to go on the new bandwagon and just start rooting for the Lions?
I've already been rooting for the Lions.
Yeah, buddy.
Been loving it, man. I have Goff on my team, and of course I didn't start him, but it wouldn't have mattered. But the guy's stats are so weird. He's great completion percentage, but he has 85 yards today. In 3 touchdowns. It's unheard of.
Isaac Arendo scored. That's Jordan Mason's touchdown, you dick. All right.
Oh my! Hey, family friendly there.
Yeah, all right. I'm getting a little ruckus today. I apologize. All right, what's our next game over here, Bernie?
Well, if you're feeling a little ruckus, let's get right into it. Falcons 31, Tampa Bay 26. Doesn't look like any of the Florida teams won today, and they were all playing at home.
This game, the Bucs scored their first 2 drives, and I think so did Atlanta. I think it was 14-14, and then Atlanta had a nice run. They scored a couple times without the Bucs scoring. And then they just kind of kept giving Algier the ball to try and run out the clock and not go anywhere. And the Bucs came back. Who scored the Atlanta did score a touchdown late to make it to get ahead. I think they might have been down. Were they down and came back at the end?
No, it was a third quarter touchdown, and it would have put them at 31 to what is that? What's 26 minus 9? Quick.
26 minus 9?
Yeah.
17?
17. So it was 31-17 going into the fourth quarter.
Okay, and so then Tampa Bay scored to get it within that one score. They almost got the ball back one more time. They had the ball down by 5 points because Young Shui Koo missed a kick. That's right. That's what it was.
Yep, he sure did. He missed a kick that would have kind of sealed it a little bit, but that's okay. It's okay. Everything's fine in Atlanta. Everything's fine.
You had a lot of players in this game. Did you happen to watch a lot of this one or just box score hunting?
No, I watched a lot of this one. It was a field day. It was like, oh, we can do this. We can do that. Kirk looked good. He looked like he looked like a veteran. He looked like a veteran that actually could make the throw that needed to be made. I know he got a lot of crap for a long, long time. Couldn't win the big game. We'll see when the postseason comes this year for Atlanta. I know the play calling for you, Mike, is still a thing, but there's got to be a reason. They're obviously not thinking of fantasy points, but maybe there's a reason why they're giving Algier these looks.
So I did notice again. I was box score watching this one, refreshing quite a bit here. There was even though they missed the kick at the end, that would have made an 8-point game where they would have secured themselves a non-loss. In the last drive by the Bucs.
Yeah.
It was a 4th and 1. And I was just watching the box score. I was like, what are they going to do? They can't have. Are they going to go for it? Are they going to kick the 60-yard kick or 58-yard kick, whatever it was? And then they had Kirk Cousins ran for it. He got on 4th down. He kept the ball. I don't know if it was a sneak. It's a 3-yard gain. So I don't know if he kind of ran off the tackle or if it was something else. But I was surprised they let the old guy coming off the Achilles on the big 4th and 1 keep the ball. That was a huge play, even though it didn't end up with the score they wanted. They ran off another 1.5 minutes by making that first down.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw a Kirk Cousins sneak. I don't know if it's the same one that you're talking about, but it was almost like a tush push, but they just didn't line it up that way. He took it, and he was under center, and they made a comment. They're like, he's never under center. He's under center so few times throughout this, and he took it straight on. And then one of the big tight ends came from behind and just kind of pushed the whole pile, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, he kept the ball."
Well, I'll tell you, if they would have handed to Algier, they would not have gotten it.
Okay.
Ken, are you do you have any thoughts on the Tampa Bay team here? Or there's a Florida team, or you're AFC all the way?
No. I actually like more NFC teams than AFC ones because the AFC is against my fence. But
gotcha.
I didn't watch this game, so Mayfield, did he really mess this team up again with his interceptions? I see he's got 2 here.
I think they were early in the game.
Yeah, they were early. He didn't lose this game for them. I think this was a good shootout. I think that maybe if he had his receivers, that this probably would have went a different way.
Okay.
But the Atlanta defense did step up. So Jesse Bates had a couple of really good breakups, and I think he had 1 interception as well.
All right, let's get on to our next game here.
All right, the next up we have hitting home here. Show them that shirt. Run, Ricky, run. All right, Arizona 28, Miami 27. Wah, wah, wah.
All right, why don't you start us off here, Ken? You were at the stadium, if I'm not mistaken. What was the atmosphere as Tua's return? Was it jubilant until, of course, the end? They played so well, except for the final outcome. It was a fun game to watch. And I'm asking you, why don't you tell us how the game was?
It was actually a little bit more empty with almost no Arizona fans, which Miami is unusual for it not to have a lot of opposing fans because people come here to vacation. But it was a little empty, but people were excited. He got out there. If you saw that first drive, everyone was psyched, man. They were like, Tua's back. We have a passer who can throw accurately. So It was great. But I'm telling you, every time that he held the ball for a long time, I was like holding my breath that he's going to get hit. Yeah, I mean, I was just worried he's going to get hit when they're coming through. And,
didn't he have a scramble in the second quarter and he slid? He got the first down, he slid, and then the crowd just kind of went wild.
I thought it was the second half.
Yes.
It was later in the game, I thought.
Was that later in the game?
It was much later. It was close to the fourth quarter. It was third quarter, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's third because they're coming at me. I sit in the end zone. So, he runs for that first down, and then everyone like stands up because we can't see. I'm like upstairs, so I have to stand up to see the end zone.
Oh yeah.
And he slid, and everyone's like, he slid.
On TV, it came across. I was watching that game the whole way, and on TV that came across as they're like, "Oh, the crowd's going into it. They're really into this one." As it was a nice run. It was like a third and long, and he ran for the first down. And then he slid with a nice smooth.
He
slide.
ran for about 10 yards, I think.
I think it was 13. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 7. It was like 3rd and 7 or something, and he ran for it. And even my 9-year-old son was like, he's fine. He slid finally.
What did you get a chance? Did you notice why Kyler didn't really get any big rushing attempts? Was our defense, were we getting after it with 4 rushing, or were we blitzing a lot? What was going on there?
We were not blitzing a lot. I think his line was just holding up, that he had all the time in the world back there. There's no reason for him to run away.
Oh, okay.
He seemed to be scrambling, like he would scramble right to get away from the initial pressure, and then he would like kind of S back to where he just left from, and then he had time. And instead of running, or even as he started to go towards the line of scrimmage, he's like, oh, now someone's kind of the linebackers were coming up to him before he was to the line of scrimmage. And he was just dropping him over in that middle part of the field. There was like 18-yard passes. So he was running around. He was getting the initial pressure. They were getting to him. He was evading it because he's good at that. And there wasn't a second wave of pressure. And he was able to kind of decide if he wanted to run, which he didn't run that much because the linebackers were sucking up and he was dropping it over the top of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really bad. Whenever he was getting any kind of pressure, by the time he was getting it, he had at least one receiver or a tight end completely open where no one could even tackle him, do nothing. And it was so frustrating to see because, they're finally about to get to him. And especially the first half, he kept getting the passes knocked down.
Right.
Were you able to see on TV? It looked great. A lot of his ball handling skills where he's kind of doing like the empty hand behind the back, little shift pocket passes and stuff.
Yeah, you can see that. It's hard because it's trick plays, right? So just like it's psyching out the guys who are on the field. But when you see him do that, you're like, oh, and you freak out a little bit. They're just going to drop it. But
he's so good at that.
He's awesome at it because you look the wrong way and there's no camera to fake you out like when you're watching on TV.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty good, and it got the defense a couple times, not all the time though.
So I think with all that nifty ball handling, at the end of the day, what actually cost the Dolphins was the mishaps of ball handling, not necessarily on him on his own, but like bad snaps, fumbling snaps. That one snap over his head for the safety was the difference in the game, and that's what made it within a field goal to lose it instead of tie it.
My biggest pet peeve about the team this year is not the players, it's the coaching, and I don't know if it's necessarily the play calling. It's the preparation. And they don't do some of the fundamentals at all. So they get Tua back in, and I guarantee you all they're trying to do is these trick plays, these passes that are going to psych out a defense that they can't figure out. But then when it comes to snapping, they're probably not even attempting to put any effort into repetitive snapping. Or like in the games when Tua was out, they should have just gone back to fundamentals, but instead the coach doesn't have them doing that at all. He's trying to recreate some kind of craziness with a team that's not going to be able to handle it without Tua. And my opinion, that's just, you can see with all the penalties they have with bad formations, drop balls, whatever. They're not concentrating on the fundamentals at times, and while you get to see a nice big scoring game, it might cost you the game, and it did today.
Yeah, they totally
Honestly,
stalled
it
out.
should have been a touchdown.
Yeah,
If Tua didn't push it out, that would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, they stalled out in that fourth quarter. They were looking so good, and they just that's the third time this year we've seen Arizona. They just kind of stick with it, and they kind of just keep it close by the end. That's the third time they've had this kicker that they picked up after the injury from Prater, and he has 3 game-winning kicks at the buzzer. He's been on the team for 4 weeks.
I mean, they didn't have to kick it. The way they were driving on us that last drive, they could have scored a touchdown. I mean,
they got to like the 12-yard line. They just kind of kneeled down where they wanted it. Yeah.
This is where at the end of the game, I think McDaniel he gets too much in his own head, and that the last drive that we had right before that, it was pretty much everybody knew you had to score. Just because we were up by 2 didn't mean anything. You had to score at least a field goal, force them to get the touchdown, and he did a bunch of those plays where Tua rolls out to the side, rolls out to the left because he's left-handed, and throws to these little short passes. They didn't work for him before he got injured. They didn't work for any of his backups. They don't work for him almost all the time. Yards after catch aren't going to work when the guy's right on your heels. They just tackle him right away. So I don't know why he did that. He did little plays like that when we needed a field goal, at least.
Yeah.
And he didn't. I mean, what did he do? He gave him the ball back with 3 minutes or so left, and they ran down the field and ran the clock out.
Well, the thing that because I've been following the Arizona Cardinals a little bit more than I normally would because I have Murray on my team here, but they're I don't know if it's the linebackers, but they're really good at tackling in that like short box, that 5-yard box. They're really Budda Baker's great, and they have a couple other guys. I think it's Wilson Sr. When you just kind of watch, they just always get tackles in that 2-yard box. So when the Dolphins are stringing out left and right, those guys they almost always strung him out or tackled him as they're trying to get around the edge. They almost never got around the edge there.
Yeah, this is very true. I mean, the other big thing is, and I always like to fault the team that lost it. They're making the mistakes, but like Waddle, man, the guy should have caught some of these passes were right in his hands.
Well, that one, I think that was the one where they didn't score on that last, when you said they had to get the field goal. I might be mistaken which drive it was. It was about that time. He was just sitting there. It was one of those, he wasn't running anymore. He sat down in his zone, staring right at Tua, hit him right in his tummy, and just went straight to the floor. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. He missed a few passes that were critical. He did make one. I think it might even been that drive or the drive before where he kept it alive. But, man, the guy has like 1 or 2 catches for the game. That's not right, especially when he has more targets than that. I mean, they hit him, to a perfection right where you need to get hit. He's not diving for it where he can barely touch the ball.
All right. Well, this is a little bit depressing here. So let's move on to another game here, Bernie. What you got?
Oh, let's move on to one that's so exciting. So exciting because famous Jameis was in it. Baltimore 24, Cleveland 29. You heard me right, folks. Cleveland 29. They won. They beat Baltimore. They beat the possible MVP.
So this one, Browns got off to a good start. I think they were, I think they were down either, 9-3, 10-3, but they scored a couple in a row, and they kept falling down by a score, and they would come back and get up by a point, and then Baltimore would score twice, get ahead, and then push it. And then by the end there, the Browns got the ball, and they scored twice, and I think it was twice in that fourth quarter, including that last, I think it was a 38-yard catch to Tillman with, I don't know exactly, less than a minute to go, or around that time, for a huge catch. I was following that one because I think they needed a field goal to take the lead. I think they were only down by, either a field goal would have tied it, they were down 1, 2, or 3. And I was like, all right, they're playing for the field goal. And all of a sudden I looked up, they got a touchdown on that to get that 29 points. The thing I wanted to mention here, Tillman had the big day because he had the 2 touchdowns. But if you look at the targets and the receptions, Winston spread this ball out, the game out beautifully. All of his receivers, he had 3 receivers, Judy, Moore, Tillman, and Njoku all had 7 to 8 receptions today. Just that Tillman caught the touchdown at the end.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was spread out good, and Njoku was set up to have a good game. Coming into this game, he was the hot take, the hot hand. but it was 12 for Moore, 9, 8, 7 for Tillman, Judy, and Njoku as far as targets go. So he did a good job spreading it out, and he wasn't afraid to throw the ball downfield. He knew he wanted to do it, and he did it. He didn't hesitate. It was good to see Jameis do that, and he's an older statesman now. He's not this young buck anymore, but he's still got that young fire in him. That's what they needed.
And the other thing I noticed on National Tight Ends Day, that Mark Andrews has now scored 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games, with 3 games in a row, at least getting in the end zone at least once. Is Mark Andrews back for real now? What's going on here?
No, that's a sell high, Mike. That's a sell high. And I bet Waddle Away would buy him from you. Go ahead, Ken. What were you going to say, Ken?
I'm like, they finally, bench Watson and Cooper gets traded, and now he's on the Bills, which in the long run might not be so bad for me. He's on my team, but I think he would have connected well with, James.
With Winston.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that they benched him. That's the thing. He got hurt, right? They should have benched him 2 or 3 weeks ago and could have gotten a lot closer in their games and not been a 2-win team. But now, hey, that's all in the past. Let's look to the future. Let's hand the ball off to Nick Chubb now. Let's open up that play action and let's go out and win some games.
He was running all right early, but the game script got away from him, and they had to throw to come back in that second half.
Yeah, for sure. And then Lamar looked like Lamar, but MVP candidates win games like Jared Goff. So
I believe this is the third time, at least the second time, that the Ravens. Oh, it was third time, but twice they lost, where they let the teams come back in that fourth quarter. They lost to the Raiders when they were up by multiple scores in the fourth quarter. They were up by 3 scores to the Dallas Cowboys, and Cowboys got within 3 points in that one game earlier. And now the Browns scored twice in the fourth quarter to come back. So I don't know what the Ravens are doing. They get up and they think they're good, and the other teams get frantic and they come back.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you want to move this along here? Got anything else to say about these game guys?
Nope.
All right, Indy 20, Houston 23. And this one was a little bit closer than everyone would have thought. But Houston pulls this out in the end.
Yeah, so this one went exactly what we thought. Without the big-time receivers for the Texans, with Nico Collins out. I'm not sure when Diggs got hurt because he was getting stats up late into the game, and then I saw that he was out. So I'm assuming it was the middle to late fourth quarter. Tank Dell scored. But it was all the running games for both teams, as Anthony Richardson cannot control an offense. There's no rhythm or rhyme. I was surprised that Taylor ended up with a good day because he was kind of not getting the ball a lot. But by the end, he finished strong. And it's one long bomb a week for Richardson at the best, it seems. And this time it was Josh Downs.
Yeah, and Josh would have had 2, I think, but one got called back for something. I forget what it was called back for, but it was called back. But yeah, Taylor started off weak, and I was like, okay, I made the right decision not playing Taylor. But then I think they realized, hey, we can't really rely on the passing game here. Let's get this thing going. So it's good to see Taylor didn't get hurt. Didn't have a questionable tag at the end of the game. But yeah, let's put Flacco in. Let's not pull a Cleveland here. Let's just get the right quarterback in to win these games. Yeah, because they could have won this game.
I was going to ask Ken. The fodder all week can you pull Richardson to put Flacco in for the mental health of your team and the winning chances? Flacco is just a more professional quarterback at this point.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know Richardson. I don't watch these games too much, right? But I don't want to watch the Colts too much. But I agree. I'd put in the quarterback's going to win for you. Who cares about any of that other stuff? It's a team game, right?
Yeah, it's obvious. But here's the thing about the Colts. I think their owner probably had some say in getting Richardson on this team, and he's a stubborn SOB.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving along here as we're getting long in the tooth here.
No problem. All right, New Orleans 8, Los Angeles Chargers 20. My eyes are bad. 26.
Saints got a safety to start the game, and then they just kept getting a couple of field goals. At 8 points. Yeah, they got 2 field goals and a safety, and then the Chargers just methodically ran this one down. McConkey, on your bench there, Ken, or you're thinking about putting him in today at all? McConkey had a strong day. One of the first times they've had a receiver with a big day for the Chargers all year long. So what do you think about the would you have preferred McConkey over Amari Cooper, I'm sure, today?
Well, of course I would have. Yes. That was the problem about my lineup today. Every single advice about him was like, oh, it's a great day to play this guy. It's a great day to play this guy. That was way for every single one of my players. I went with the bigger names. Obviously, that wasn't necessarily the right choice, but he was the only one that I really should have started over anybody else.
Yeah, so the Saints look like a team that they're falling apart. I don't know what's going on. I guess Carr is the MVP for the Saints, because without him, they're not doing anything. And they started off hot. They started off like
2-0, the highest scoring team possibly ever, and they've lost every game since, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2-6, and it's just unreal to see a coach that has that. Well, you know what? It's not, because Mike McDaniel had the same problem. His starter went out and he couldn't do anything with his backups. And these backups, they're not great players. You know, I'm not a Rattler fan, but they're serviceable. You just have to have the right game plan. I mean, you didn't have Taysom Hill in the previous games, but you had him today. You know, it's just like, get on board with this, man. Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill could have won this game, or not won this game. They could have kept this game competitive, I think.
Well, Olave's back too.
Yeah, right? And Olave was back
today.
Today.
Well. He played well, though. I mean, he had over 100 yards.
Yeah, still. He did for sure. But they couldn't get the end zone. Like, if you can't get into the end zone in the NFL, you're not winning games, man.
All right, what's next?
Yes, thank you, Madden.
You did that. You did that one Madden 4th and long, and now you can't get out of your head.
Yeah, right. All right, Buffalo 31, Seattle 10. This one hurts my heart a little bit. So talk about it.
This was a boat race. They just got out, and they actually calmed down once they got up to 31. It was 31-10 in the middle of third quarter, I felt like, at least at a glance. Ken Walker was a dud today. DK Metcalf was out. Maybe that was a big deal in terms of the passing game for the Seahawks, as Geno Smith was also a dud. But James Cook was there were a lot of duds, Amari Cooper, but James Cook was the man of the hour, with Dalton Kincaid also helping out.
Yeah, and Ray Davis looked good too. He didn't put up a big stat line. He didn't have to, but he did look good. So if you're holding on to Ray Davis right now on your bench, keep a hold of him, because if Cook does go down, he's definitely going to be a go-to start. Ken Walker did look okay, but he couldn't get anything going with the running game. Charbonnet, the same. I have the same gripe with Charbonnet as you with Algier. Stop giving him the ball. Just give the ball to Ken Walker, please. Stop.
I think maybe they were so down they didn't want Walker getting hurt on plays that they weren't going to come back on maybe today.
Probably. Okay. Ken, anything else on this game? Did you watch any of that one?
No, I didn't watch any of this one. Just disappointing.
Yeah, Buffalo wins.
Buffalo is running away with this division now.
Yeah, Buffalo wins, but Buffalo sucks. All right, moving on. Chicago 15, Washington 18. The battle of the first and second overall pick.
Caleb Williams looked awful. He looked awful.
Yeah.
He was throwing the ball out of bounds all day long. He was scrambling for his life, but even then he was missing guys. Timing was off. He was trying to throw to Keenan Allen, who we know is a precision route runner, a timing guy. And he would turn around, the ball would already be over his head, out of bounds. He was having a rough day. And Jaden Daniels, man, I thought he was coming with broken ribs, and he wouldn't slide. I don't know what he's doing out there. He's going to get hurt. And this game was pretty boring all day long, as Saber, the nice pickup acquisition from Phintastics here, one of the best kickers fantasy-wise in the league, he was scoring all the points for the Commanders. But the finale of this game made up for all the crap for the first 3.5 quarters, as we had the first lead of the day came to the Bears with 45 seconds left, 30 seconds left, even less than that. I think it was 20 seconds left. And how'd this game finish off for us, Bernie?
This game finished off 18-15.
No, what was how did we get to that outcome? What was the last play of the game?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it? Oh, I was watching this game. All right, so sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hog it here. Okay, so we have
go.
We have the Bears score on a Roshan Johnson touchdown, a 1-yard touchdown with about 20 seconds to go. So now, and they go for 2-point conversion, so they get it. So they're up by 3 points with, again, that 19, 20 seconds to go. The Commanders have no more timeouts. They've used them up to try and, get as much time left as they could. I didn't see the first play after the kickoff, but they were at the 25-ish yard line or so, maybe 30-yard line. Jaden Daniels with zeros on the clock as the snap, after the snap, there were zeros while he had the ball in his hand, was kind of, given time for his guys to get down the field, stepped up to the 30-yard line, threw it all the way down to the end zone. First of all, I'm like, is he going to make it to the end zone? That's a long 70 yards. Usually these guys can do 55 yards, give or take, unless they're, monster arms. He got it to the goal line. The pile of guys all jumped up, batted the ball straight up in the air to Noah Brown in the back, who's sitting there by himself, caught the ball in the end zone. Buzzer Hail Mary to win the game. He threw the ball 70 yards in the air, got volleyball drilled to a wide open receiver in the middle of the end zone, and the Commanders won this one at the buzzer on a 70-yard Hail Mary.
Wow. With broken ribs or with bruised ribs?
And even in the fourth quarter, he was after one of the runs, he was kind of doubled over a little bit. I don't know if he was just sore or what, but he threw that with sore ribs, if not battered ribs. Yep.
Wow.
It was a very, like I said, nothing was happening all day long, but the last minute and a half, we had our first lead for the Bears, and then the longest Hail Mary I've ever seen in the air without, pitching the ball around.
So the Battle of the Rookies, we'll chalk that one up win for Jaden Daniels. Then he is definitely looks like the superstar so far this year out of that rookie quarterback class.
Yeah, well, Daniels didn't have a great game except for that touchdown, but he still was the better player because Caleb Williams looked so bad. He would have been the default winner of this game, even if his team lost, because Caleb Williams was just atrocious.
I mean, Jaden Daniels, he didn't have a great great completion percentage, but he had 326 yards though. I mean, he was still throwing the ball.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't that bad.
Well, he finished with 21 fantasy points with a 70-yard touchdown at the buzzer, so he wasn't,
Yeah.
They both had 13 points, 13, 11 points.
It was a 70-yard throw, but it was a 52-yard pass.
Is that what the line of scrimmage was further up?
He's a line of scrimmage, yeah.
Line of scrimmage. He was behind the ball. He had to run back.
Okay. I know his feet were at the 30 when he let go of the ball.
And remember, it doesn't count in the end zone how far back you are. It's just,
right.
But just for like next gen stats sort of deal, like that he, that ball was thrown exactly this amount of yards in the air or some stuff that. Yeah,
for sure. Him being back and then it caught in the back of the end zone, it was probably 70 yards for sure.
Either way, all right.
I have the kicker there, so I love William. Yeah, I love him because they have to kick a lot.
Okay.
He's my Cowboys kicker. He's from Washington. He's just like your kicker there, Mike.
Yeah.
This guy's given me 13 points almost every game now ever since I picked him up.
All right, moving on here. So Carolina 14, Denver 28. Start of the week on Denver here. Mr. Bo Nix looks like a savvy veteran.
So there was a turnover on the third play of the game for Denver. I don't know if it was a fumble or interception. I just don't recall. I think it was a fumble. So Carolina started the ball like at their, getting ready to score. And it pretty much started in the red zone, give or take, on the first when the game just started. And Carolina scored right off of that. Leggett, your guy Leggett, caught the touchdown pass from Bryce Young. They got off to a 7-0 start, and that was it. As the Broncos just did what they did and went exactly how I kind of thought. Remember, I said I like the matchup for Javonte Williams, but I don't think that their running game is strong enough to just impose their will in the running game. But Carolina lets you do whatever you need to do. Whatever, if you're a good enough team and you can run it, you can run it. If your running game's not good enough, you can beat them on the pass game too. They're just going to do whatever you think's best for you. They're going to let you do it. And this was the best passing yardage game by far for Bo Nix. He was responsible for 4 touchdowns, 3 passing, 1 rushing. And it was just a breakout day for Bo Nix, are they like on a 4th? They've won 4 of the last 5 games, I think.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how far back, but possibly.
But they have a winning record, right? They're 5-3.
Yeah, they're 5-3. Yeah. They look good. I mean, a lot of this scheming that is coming on from Peyton is geared for Bo Nix's success. So, this is another one of those deals where a good coach is making the right decisions for the player that he has in front of him. And they started off slow. I think their running game really helps Bo out, though. Once Javonte Williams and now McLaughlin starting to come on a little bit, once they start doing their thing, Sutton is a number one. Like, she's just got number one talent on him. So Sutton can easily help Bo Nix make this a blowout. I don't know who their second go-to receiver really is, though. Like, Troutman had, 85 yards, but he only had 4 targets. So
combination of Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, or Jordan Little Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah.
And Belay or whatever.
If they could get like a solid number 2 receiver, I mean, it's a good offense, man. It's a really good offense.
What do you think about the rookie Bo Nix? Is he you think he's overperforming? He was a joke when he was picked at that 9th pick, I believe it was 9th or 12th, whatever he was drafted at. He was kind of the joke, the non-first rounder, and he's winning games.
He is winning games, and I'm impressed by that because he looks like a college. When he's back there, he looks like a college quarterback. He's running around everywhere. Even if he ends up throwing it, he's all over the place in the backfield on him. But hey, if he keeps winning, and we'll see what he looks like next season. If he can continue it, then I'd be super impressed.
Yeah.
Well, it helps when you have a stout defense like that to let the rookie not be too far down in these games.
Oh yeah, let's shout out Surtain. He got another interception today.
Oh, nice! I didn't see that.
Yeah, so he's definitely
awesome.
Should be on a Dolphins. I don't know, some sort of lineage there. He should just be a Dolphin.
Do we have any more games on our list here?
What's that?
Do we have any more games on our list?
Yes, we've got one last game here. KC 27, Las Vegas 20.
This was Kansas City does what they do. They control the clock. They don't move the ball too much. They get a couple big time first downs. Their defense actually, when their offense was stalling out in the middle part of the game, if you will, maybe a third quarter, but they had their defense got 2 stops and a turnover, which kept them in that it was a low scoring game. They were up by 3 to 7 points all day long, and even when they didn't score, then they get the ball back via their defense. So again, the Kansas City defense and their running game and clock management is the best part of their game, their team.
Yeah, this is one of those things where you look at this game and you look at the Chiefs and you're like, oh man, 7-0, they're great, best team in the league. And then you look at this game and you're like, wait a minute, you beat the Raiders by a touchdown. Like, the Raiders looked like dog doo-doo, man. I don't know what was going on. I didn't see anything that made me want to watch this game, made me want to look at any of their players for fantasy. The coach, even when they're celebrating, it looks like their coordinators were more happy than the coach. The coach is like, oh, you guys did a good job. I didn't have anything to do with that. So I don't know what's going on with the Raiders. They're starting to worry me. As far as letting the Chiefs, letting those other teams in that division just kind of walk all over them, which is not good for the AFC Dolphins here.
I thought the Raiders played pretty hard today. They just were outmatched.
Yeah, but the Chiefs have the best record. The Chiefs are the returning champions. The Chiefs are all of this and that. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's doing what they can with no one on their team. But they're not the Lions. Lions, Chiefs heads up. Lions destroy that team. But for some reason, not that the refs have anything to do with it, the Chiefs end up winning these games, man. And they look good. I'm not saying they don't look good. Worthy looked good. Kelsey looked good. Mahomes looked okay. He looked better than he had for previous games. So they don't look bad. But if you're going to beat a team that you should beat them. And that's what the Lions do. They beat them.
Ken, how good do you think Kansas City really is? They're obviously the top of the standings, but they're not impressing. They just dominate the script.
I mean, I don't think their offense is some magical thing. I think they do not make huge mistakes, which is a big thing in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense really they stop people when they need to.
Yeah.
And that's really important. When there's some momentum going on, they kill it. when they need to have a goal, when they need to stop to win the game, they do it. And the same goes for their offense. If they must score a field goal or a touchdown, something about that team,
They get in the position to make it happen. You're absolutely right.
Don't get me wrong. I do feel like the refs play little favorites on them, but their team also knows how to play them, right? Like they're going to throw to the defender who's not looking at the ball. So if he puts his hand on the guy at all, it's going to be pass interference because he's not paying around. He's not paying attention. And Mahomes is like, oh, if I throw it to that guy, pass interference, right?
Yeah,
and it was pass interference, but so I just think that team, they have that. They know that when they need that football, a lot is not about how you play the entire plethora, like the entire game. So that's why you see the score with the Raiders. How did the Raiders score so much? Well, no, at the end they won.
Yep. For sure. All right, and so Monday night game, guys, everybody look out for that. New York Giants at Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, I'm nervous about that game. I'm got to dodge some players here as this Sunday night game is not going very well for me in particular. All right, let's get into some early waiver wire thoughts. I've got 5 names on here. You can go ahead, Bernie, if you want, and I can fill in the gaps if you like.
All right, in the quarterback position, really there isn't anybody. So we could just skip over quarterbacks.
I got one name.
You good? Go for it. Don't say Mason Rudolph.
Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I know. But it's such a roller coaster in New York. And again, it's coaching. It's a lot of stuff going on. But if you're in dire need, he can do it with his legs.
No, he's just the only one out there who's a starter who's not rostered or hurt right now.
Right. Okay. So on the running back side, I really like Jaleel McLaughlin. Keep him on your radar. I don't know if it's time to pick him up yet, but keep him on your radar. And then Roschon Johnson, this game is kind of, not anything to look at, but he does get some of those goal line looks. So he could be helpful as a second back if needed. Check out the bye weeks and what's going on there. That's really it though. You have anything for running backs?
No running backs really. Ken, So are you locked in on your guys? Or are you trying to turn over some of your lower bench players?
No, man. I mean, all my players, not every single one, but most of them they're just as good as something I could pick off the waiver.
Right.
Yeah.
They're projected in 9 points every game. It's why Yahoo thinks I'm supposed to be the best team in the league, right? They project me so high, and they're not the only ones. And my players just fail, or I pick the wrong ones. Honestly, that was what happened to me last week.
Yeah. All right. And then for wide receivers, I've got 2, obviously Cedric Tillman, keep an eye out for him, and Demarcus Robinson. He's been on and off a couple of fantasy teams. So, keep an eye on him, see what's going on there, make sure any of those injured receivers that were coming back, that they didn't re-aggravate anything. So watch the practice reports. And then everybody else on that is a tight end, but I'm not going to look at them because this was an off week for tight ends where they all effing scored.
Well, I have Cade Otton on here. He seems to be the number one target for Baker Mayfield, who's passing the ball around. And once those guys got hurt last week, Cade Otton was the one who in the comeback mode, and today he was the main receiver again. I don't know if it's hard to pick up those guys. You're afraid of them.
I don't disagree at all. And I would also say Tucker Kraft and David Njoku, but I don't want to say any tight ends. So.
Right. I think all those guys are say even in skill, but I think Cade Otton might be like the number one receiver for the Bucs. As opposed to like just a good tight end for a team.
Yeah, it was like Goddard for that 1 or 2 games when the 2 receivers were out.
All right, I got a couple defenses to keep an eye on here. We have the New England defense next week up against the Tennessee Titans, who gave up a ton of points this week to the Detroit Lions. And the Tennessee Titans are the best matchup for opposing fantasy defenses. So keep that in mind. Carolina's a defense I wouldn't target, except they're playing New Orleans, who might be playing their 3rd or 4th string quarterback. So that's a dart throw here. So we got the New England defense as a early look against the Titans, and the Carolina Panthers against the hapless New Orleans Saints.
Check the Saints practice reports. You're going to see Taysom Hill, get first team quarterback reps, and then everything will be fine.
All right. Ken, I want to thank you so very much for joining us. I'm sorry you had to endure that. The game was so fun until that last kick today for the Dolphins-Cardinals game. But thanks again for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys. We will see you next time. Good luck. I know you have your game is close, so you're not out of it here. You might get this one, so keep the faith.
Oh, your Cowboys are here, so your kickers, I'm worried about him. He's going to destroy my defense.
Oh, yeah. Well, not yet. All right. Have a good night, Ken. Thank you.
Yeah, later.
All right, Bernie. We got to get this wrapped up, man. It is late, but I do have some news I want to share. I don't know how many people actually go to our website, but I'm moving things around. If you've noticed, our game day page and the wingmanfantasyfootball.com page have a lot of overlap and redundancies. So I'm going to get these down to one page. Instead of having two kind of full pages that have the same stuff on it more than half the time, I'm going to get down to one page that has all of it on one page, from the news to the podcast to the Twitter feeds to the inactive lists. So for now, to the end of the year,
you're going to combine the game day guide and the main page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like you go to one, you get all but a couple things, and you go to the other one, you get all but a couple things. We're going to put all of them into one spot. So I'm going to keep that game day guide going up to the end of the year since you guys are used to it. But the wingmanfantasyfootball.com has everything you need. And by next year, that's going to be the only fantasy football page we have, unless something else pops up. Because like I said, there's redundancies, but you miss some if you don't go to both at the same time. So let's put it all on one page.
Awesome. Love it. And you'll have the weather still, right? Don't lose the weather.
Yep. I put the weather on the fantasyfootball.com page. So all the things you find and enjoy on the game day page will now also be on the wingmanfantasyfootball.com main page.
Great.
All right. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so very much for joining us on our Week 8 2-point conversation. Thanks to the Phintastics for joining us. You can find all of our podcasts and audio feeds on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, YouTube Music, and Amazon Music. That's right. That's the other one. Just search Wingman the League to find those audio feeds. If you want our audio and or video feeds, go to wingmanentertainment.net/podcast. And of course, go ahead and join us on our YouTube page at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube. Go ahead and leave a like, hit that subscribe button, check that notification bell, and leave a comment so you can get into our next mailbag segment, which we will read off on Friday morning. With that being said, guys, thanks again. May your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty.
And remember, in fantasy football, as in life, sometimes you just lose.
Oh, yes. Sometimes. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you. All right. Bye.